Okay, this is Basis 88 in the park with Tim Rifat talking about the Rothschilds and complex number space, etc. Part 4.
So the Nazis formed the basis of super soldier technology. Now we had this deep mine complex in Czechoslovakia where the Germans started experimenting with augmenting humans with something called torsion fields, which is totally unknown outside of the West, but the Russians who took the Nazi scientists have been building torsion field generators on a massive scale. Now, what's the definition of torsion? Well, we've got a circle. There we go. And think of a sphere. This is a sphere, and on the surface is a unit area. Now we then go round this sphere, and if this unit area on the sphere has gone outwards, that's called positive torsion. Positive torsion. And if on the sphere it's gone inwards, after one circumnavigation, then that's called negative torsion. Now this is the force that witches, remember the witches have their vortexes and they're dancing around in circles? This, that way, would be positive torsion. This way would be negative torsion. So in physics in the West, torsion doesn't appear in any textbooks, doesn't exist. In Russian technology, their super secret technology, they've developed it from the Nazis, and torsion actually does exist. Now, what's so important about torsion? Well, if you've got a energy body, so if, let's give us another Rothschild. Thank you very much. Now remember, if we're going to do it 100% and with no energy loss, we want to do it both ways on the complex number diagram, so we can simply do it 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. So here, of course, we've got the complex number body of the Rothschild. What's this idiot called? David. And here we've got the -I complex number body of the Rothschild. Now look, this energy field is held together. Now if we monitor them over time, the complex number energy body here would be growing out. This -I one would be getting smaller. So we can see associated with the complex number energy bodies of people is also torsion, where the positive torsion field is the I one, and the negative torsion field is the minus I1. This means, of course, then that we can simply have specialized crystals which you can get the complex number energy bodies of a human with, and since you do it simultaneously, it requires no energy. So the complex number energy body we get with a crystal designed for positive torsion fields to capture the eye, which would require a lot of energy. We'd have to be massively energetically powerful to move the complex number energy body which exists around the Rothschild to a location of our choice. But then we've got one which is a negative torsion field. This is a quartz crystal that's been stuck in Sellafield, which gains energy to pull out the minus I body of the Rothschild, which then means that manipulating the complex number bodies of the Rothschild requires no energy. So you don't need to be super psychic, you don't need to be able to be someone who's spent all their life acquiring energy, or someone who's worshipped like the witches and has got billions of views and 100 million followers on Twitter. You simply have got two psychotronic generators. What's a psychotronic generator? A psychotronic generator is a device which can store psychic energy, and was invented by the Russians and the Czechs to augment their psychic warfare program. So once you've got a positive torsion field psychotronic generator and a negative torsion field psychotronic generator, then of course you've got the ability to simply take the energy from any A-lister there we are, and contain it. This one contains the positive torsion field, the complex number space part. This one contains the minus I negative torsion field components of the Rothschild. So you can use their own negative energy and negative torsion fields to then be used to target them. So you don't even have to design a weapon system to destroy the Rothschilds. The bigger the target, the more energy, negative energy they've got to destroy themselves. Say for example you're going after an A-lister. Now if it's a female A-lister, then of course you know the easy way to do them in is with a Amy Winehouse or a Britney Spears, where they go mad and kill themselves. The same with a Robin Williams or a Philip Seymour Hoffman. This of course is contained in the minus I realm, and because the minus I realm is chaotic, it's self-similar, so that in the minus I realm there is an aspect of the minus I realm that killed Amy Winehouse or Robin Williams or Philip Seymour Hoffman, which is incorporated in the entire minus I realm. You just need to bring that information to the fore for use. So in the minus I realm of the Rothschilds, which they use to destroy their enemies, you can then change the information of the minus I realm. So instead of that minus I realm being used to crush, remember the Rothschilds contacted me, they said to me, we're going to crush you like a flea, your ramblings will have no effect on reality. Instead of that working, you can simply erase the information in the minus I realm which protects them, and then adds the information to the minus I realm that drives them mad and kills them. Now in quantum mechanics, physicists have come to the conclusion that quantum mechanics is an incomplete representation of reality, and that now the view is that underlying quantum mechanics is a theory, let's call it hyper quantum mechanics or H quantum mechanics, that is so bizarre it makes quantum mechanics, which most people would find incredibly bizarre, look like a logical game of Monopoly. Now, in this underlying theory beneath quantum mechanics, we've got information and causality, one of which or both of which are not conserved. So the real nature of reality is that either causality is not conserved or information is not conserved, or both are not conserved. So if you look at, as a physicist like myself, into applying it to psychic warfare, if you go beneath quantum mechanics to the underlying theory, you have a realm where either causality or information or both are not conserved. Now, looking at remote viewing, let's go for black. If a remote viewer has a remote viewing body, and instead of going along 4 dimensions, can go up into 5 dimensions by having the ability to have a eye generator, something that can twist him through from 4th dimension to the 5th dimension. Remember, when you squeeze a crystal, it automatically produces a spark of light. Light is gravity in the 5th dimension. So if you can go into the 5th dimension and you can travel into the future along the 5th dimension, look back at the present, and then look at the near future, your act of observation will change the near future. So any remote viewer can control reality if he can get in front of any other observer. So one can think of competition by anyone who can remotely view to get way beyond the rest into a future where he can then look back at the past, and it's all mutable. And of course, once you get to the omega point, you've then reached the end of the universe, the end of the observed universe, and whoever reaches the omega point, the finishing line, can then observe the near future from the omega point, erase every single observer beneath him, control the near future, which then means that whatever happens in the future is controlled by this one observer. Worse still, you can go back from the omega point to the past and be the first person to observe the past, even though it's happened for this present observer. This then erases the present and produces a new timeline where the present is changed by this omega point observer. So as one can see, in this new theory of physics, if you allow remote viewing to exist, then time is mutable. Even worse, it's acausal, because the future is controlling the past. The past isn't making the future's making the past. Similarly, information is not conserved, because all that information for that timeline to produce the present where the Rothschilds take over the world, there's a one world government ruled by the Rothschilds, Russia controlled by the Rothschild puppet Khodorkovsky, the Chinese Tiananmen Square works, balkanization of China, because they have civil war, split up into 20 different states, all controlled by the Rothschilds. The entire world has a little nuclear war arranged by the Rothschilds. All nuclear weapons have to go to the Rothschilds, all run by the UN, with the Rothschilds in total control of one global village. This happened, except the Omega Point observer, yours truly, erased it. And now we've got a world where the Rothschilds are slaughtered like dogs by super soldiers. Putin, who hates the Rothschilds, is in charge of Russia. Xi Jinping, who isn't taking orders from the Rothschilds and wants China to take over the world, in charge of China. We've got a multipolar world, and the Rothschilds are so weak they can't even get rid of minnows like Maduro of Venezuela or the Ayatollah Khomeini, and they get rid of Gaddafi of Libya and end up having Europe destroyed by all the migrants coming across from Libya. The same with Syria. Can't get rid of Gassad and all the Syrian migrants destroy Germany. 1.6 million, and they're going to bring over all their relations, so there'll be 8 million of them very soon in Germany. So one can see the same with America. Trump can't even stop the whole of Central South America coming into America and turning America into glorious Nicaragua, while we turn Europe into Chad. And all the whites are going, oh, terrible, what's happening to our country, National Health Service, education collapsing, don't know why, need more money. No, it can't be all these migrants who are using it and never paying into it. No, it can't be them. And, oh, we can't stop them coming here because, oh my goodness, oh, they're wonderful people, and isn't it cruel? We can't let them drown in the Mediterranean. We can't split the migrant children from their parents. Oh, that's cruel. This, of course, is not in the Rothschild timeline where they take over the world. This is in the Tim Rifat timeline, where their entire reality, their entire past has been changed. Now, of course, we're going into the near future, where super soldiers kill the Rothschilds with ease, blackmail them, and there's a massive transfer of money from the Rothschilds to the poor. Anyone poor, I class anyone poor who isn't a multi-billionaire and hasn't got 100 billion in the bank. So I'm dirt poor. I need, trillions in order to become a normal person, like the Rothschilds. So one can see why you do the super soldier service. And why I'm going over the science is to say, rather than believe me, please believe me, get into this organisations and governments and anyone with means. No, it's a science. Why would you get into it? Because if you want to become powerful and rich and rule the world, you need to have control over super soldier technology. Now, with the ability to build super soldiers, one can see that energy requirements, which before were the problem, you needed to be a super psychic to be able to project this enormous energy body over the target, and then of course you could do the target in. But the Rothschilds, of course, who controlled Satanism via the Illuminati Eyes Wide Shut parties, and of course they control the complex number realm by control of money. Money is simply complex number electricity. Were simply too powerful to be influenced by simple super soldiers. Here, of course, what we're doing is using the energy of the Rothschilds to kill the Rothschilds. So we simply have two psychotronic generators, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and here we've got the complex number energy of that fucktard and the minus I energy, which would be used to protect him. And we simply then stick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to collect it, and that was supposed to kill me, so it goes onto my death spot. They're all trying to murder me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pop. Simple. That Rothschild's energy that was going to be used to protect him has now been transformed into killing him. And as we see from this new theory of hyper quantum mechanics, causality and information are not conserved. So we can change, if we try it again, the -I, this energy was supposed to be used to murder me, shut me up, stick me in prison, mental hospital, etc., etc., instead of which we can erase the information in this -I space of the Rothschild. How do we do that? This contains a negative torsion field. We simply insert it in, stick it down to the center. That's that negative vortex, goes collapses all that -I energy of the Rothschilds into a little black hole, and then we can white hole it with a positive one, grow it out to reboot it. But this time all the energy of the Rothschilds is now reprogrammed to kill them. We can then grab it, stick it into my death spot, because remember that their intent is linked with mine. We're in a zero-sum game. They want to kill me, shut me up, and then we stick it into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, bang. That means then that I haven't used any energy. This hasn't required any energy. We've simply used the energy of the Rothschilds and reprogrammed it, stuck it into them to kill them. You got another Rothschild wank. Go back to Nathaniel, yeah. The fucktard, the imbecile. Now stick it over the top. Oh, that side of it. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Used up. Used and abused. Now this, of course, is the fucktard son of Jacob Rothschild, which is the British branch of the Rothschilds. So in the same way, we can collect 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember, we're using the complex number and the -I complex number together. It requires no energy. We've got the 180-degree shift, so it gives us our 0, which gives us 100% reality, and we then manifest them. Here we've got the -I, that's all the British Rothschilds getting MI5 to kill me, murder me, smash this, do this, blah, blah, blah. We simply then input a negative torsion field to collapse it to a black hole. This one, positive torsion field, grow it out. The information now has been changed so that instead of that -I, the negative part of the Rothschilds, squashing me like a flea and my ramblings having no effect on reality, it's all now tuned to killing them. Now we do it 5 times. So we collapse it down, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then of course it's all inputted to kill me. Stick it in here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pop. Nathaniel's gone. But remember, MI5 are simply part of this -I of the Rothschilds to be used to extrajudiciously murder people like me, shut me up, so we can simply then take out from the Rothschilds the archetype of MI5. So here we've got the archetype of MI5, and we can then of course start working on MI5. Here of course we've got the FBI or the CIA, so we can see all the intelligence, Interpol, plop, or we can stick them all back in from this -I of the Rothschilds. Remember, they all run on money, complex number energy. They're all paid for by the Rothschilds, and the Rothschilds control all of the banking system of the West, and the top 500 companies are all owned behind the scenes by the Rothschilds. So of course with MI5 you can simply take them out of this -I part of the Rothschilds, And then, of course, you've programmed into the minus I of the Rothschilds death, so you can then simply do it to MI5. And so you can simply input into them, pop, collapsed. And you can see this happening now. You say, well, isn't it happening? Yes, it is, because MI5 is saying that the #1 problem for the UK isn't terrorism now. No, it's all of these gangs going around knifing, stabbing, shooting and chucking acid in people's faces. This is the #1 threat to UK national security, which of course I promised them years ago, Chedworld. Now, of course, with this, one can start to build the future where every British city, we've got every British city being occupied by gangs which are going around on their little mopeds, knifing, stabbing, shooting, chucking acid, and the energy to do this is supplied by the Rothschilds. So we can simply take out from the Rothschilds the energy which was supposed to kill me but now is killing the Rothschilds, to produce the future of Britain where every single city is completely devastated by all these gangs going around knifing, shooting, murdering, aciding. Here it is. And instead of destroying it, we actually want to grow it, build it and feed it into the ground to make it the reality of Great Britain. Because remember, we want Britain to be like Mad Maxville, burning from end to end. Now, of course, Colin Bloy, who started me when I was early 20s on all this Illuminati technology, he was into ley lines and earth energies. So if we can input this -I energy of the Rothschilds, now tuned to destroying the UK, into the ley line system, we can then augment the ley line system to destroy the UK. So if you look under here, there'll be ley lines. That's St Nicholas's Church is the oldest church in Britain. So under St Nicholas's Church, there we go. There is a big Stargate. Stargates are energy centres that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 link you to the interdimensional realms. If we can input this -I energy from this imbecile into the ley line system, we can then poison the earth energies of the country to then promote the London model of UK, which is acid in the face, knifing, shooting, zombie knives, all the stuff, little mopeds, all that stuff. And the police totally incapable of protecting the population, but not just in London, but every town, city, village in the country. Complete Mad Maxville, which of course must be the future for the UK. This means, of course, then that we need to be able to tap into the ley line system. Now, if you think of St Nicholas's Church, which has got this big Stargate, we can simply get this -I from the Rothschilds we've got here, and then just chuck it at the Stargate into the, or push it down into the energy system. This -I then will infect the earth energies of the country, rather like when you put Ebola into a victim. You know, Ebola, the virus, turns the victim into more and more Ebola. So here we've got the new Ebola, but energetic Ebola, which we inject through a Stargate. Stargates are big energy centres, and the big one in Brighton's under St Nicholas, to then infect the country with the -I of the Rothschilds, which is, will crush you like a flea, your ramblings will have no effect on reality, will kill you, will jail you, blah, 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 all this shit, which now, of course, is being used. So all the energy of the Rothschilds they use to protect themselves, and of course now what I'm doing with the video is stirring them up to get into hyper fearful mode and feed more of the -I, is growing. They'll be putting more and more energy. MI5, you must crush this man like a flea. MI5, you must do something. MI5, you must do something. Blah, blah, blah. All of this energy now, since we've done this ritual, is feeding that energy into MI5 to destroy them, and feeding the energy into the ley line system of the country. So the massive energy system of the country has now been infected. Remember, in hyper quantum mechanics, information is mutable, so is causality. So what we're doing is changing Britain to turn it into one smoking ruin with Mad Maxville, complete bestiality of gangs all around the country, all powered by the Rothschilds by infecting the ley line system. So as one can see, one could go simply from the tactical to the strategic if one chooses A-list targets. So one can see for psychic warfare, the A-listers and the Rothschilds, not only are they good for providing lots of money, because remember, once you can start killing a few Rothschilds, they then will have to pay you billions, otherwise you'll go through all of them, and they then will put more money and energy into their secret police to stop you. But now, of course, we've incepted the whole beginning of this nightmare for them, that the more energy they put into protecting themselves, the more it gets pumped into the ley line system via this Stargate from St Nicholas Church. Remember, this is the part of the St Nicholas graveyard, which then infects the UK's earth energies more and more and more, producing more and more chaos in the country. Similarly with Brexit, which can be seen, we can then, of course, we've got the minus I, we can call up the minus I from the Rothschild filth. There we go. And we can take out the minus I bit, which is keeping us in the European Union and making it so chaotic we never really leave. Then, of course, one can simply collect it, stick it in. So that means that the more effort that they put into keeping us in the European Union, the more chaos descends upon the country. Which, of course, strangely enough, is happening now. Now back to simple super soldiers. Let's look at our trainee super soldier. There we are. Duncan. He's volunteered.
Try my face.
Doesn't matter. So we can look at his energy body here. So if you look at his energy, he's got energy there. It's quite nice. Normally, you know, the person's got no physical energy. It's very close to the body. There we are. That's it. And we simply get rid of the assemblage point in the center. That's the place for the assemblage point. So this is your normal spiritual healing. If you go to Reiki or psychic healing groups, millions of people around the world, they're doing all this stuff, energizing themselves. But let's see if we can turn him into a super soldier from our Rothschild. Now, first of all, let's give him the minus I of a Rothschild. There we are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Collect it. There we are. Minus I of a Rothschild. Now remember, this is all a science, so it's not simply, believe me, I'm moving energy into Duncan. So this now is minus I. That's the energy, and that's huge because the Rothschilds rule the West. Now what can we do with this minus I? Well, Duncan's an I. So if we inserted Duncan into this energy, we get I to the minus I, which is equivalent to 1 over I to the I, which gives us R 0.2 over 1, which is equivalent to 5. So that would then give him multi-dimensional capacity just by doing this simple trick. So we then simply move the, let's get the right crystal. We simply move it around Duncan, there we are, and to link it up, stick the assemblage point into the center. Why? When you stick the assemblage point into the center, you unmanifest all that information, all that causality, and then you can reboot it. It's simple, eye to the eye. It's another story though. So this then, all the energy of the Rothschilds used to crush me like a flea and make my ramblings having no effect on reality, has simply gone into my super soldier, Mark I, and given him multi-dimensional capacity. And of course, when you've got eye to the eye, that's R minus I, and the eye inside, that then controls the energy it's within. As one can see, the entire conception of humans is the same. You've got an egg, and you've got a sperm, this is a eye, this is another eye, the sperm goes into the egg, and you get eye to the eye. So one can see that this then produces the force, the morphogenic force, that switches DNA on and off, because remember, all the DNA in us is equivalent. But why is the DNA expression different? You've got skin, hair, heart, all the same information, but all different. Why? Because this eye to the eye produces the morphogenic field, which the biologists like Sheldrake have been talking about, which then controls the real number DNA to produce morphogenesis, and of course the life cycle. So one can see, not only are we straying into what makes us human, but we're straying into how, as humans, we develop, grow and age. And as one can see, if you can control this eye to the eye process, then of course you're into the realm that instead of growing old and dying at around, was it 80 now? If it's in Russia, it's 54 for a male and 64 for a female, but in the West normally around 80 odd. You can then potentially expand your lifespan to, let's say, 200, looking young and fit and fat free. But that's another aspect of this technology. Here we're just looking at the ability to murder and make loads and loads of money. Because remember, life is all about money. Anyone who says otherwise isn't one of the ruling class, a Rothschild. All they think about is money and using it for power. Now, we go the other way, which is eye to the eye. So we call up the Rothschild's eye, what makes a Rothschild. And what we're going to do here is an exorcist, a Linda Blair, where Nathaniel and the Rothschilds are going to be possessed by Duncan. And here, of course, if we have a satanic stone linked up with this one, then automatically it requires no energy, because we're going this way simultaneously this way. And we can then call up the minus eye of the Rothschilds, which is huge, massive amount of energy. You can imagine they're the ruling family on the planet. They might be walk-ins, they might not, who cares? It doesn't really matter. And then we simply place that over Duncan. We've now got eye to the eye of Duncan, but all the energy of the Rothschilds is now flared out his energy field to go from simply being here to now I can't measure it. It's flared out way out there. All powered by the Rothschilds. So as you can see with this technology, the more powerful your enemy, the more powerful you become, because they're the cattle, they're the goyim that we feed upon, and we're the super Jews that feed upon our goyim cattle. So here with I to the I, that gives us 0.2. So that means that we've had a 20% change in his reality. So we simply do it again. Remember, with a luciferic stone, it's not requiring any energy to rip out the energy of our Rothschild. Once again, stick it around him. Plop. Do it again. Stick it around him. That's it. Do it again. Stick it around him. And then one final time to get up to 100%. To stick it around him. There we are. That's popped. So the entire eye space of the Rothschilds has got Linda Blair, exorcist, by our demon, Duncan the demon, who now has taken over the entire energy field of the Rothschilds. And all of the energy that the Rothschilds are using to protect themselves against me, it gives him the 5, this multi-dimensional capacity to run in 5 different timelines and be able then to pick the one he wants. So now, of course, when we try and move in to see his energy field, it's simply flared out, and this of course is permanent, so this energy will not die because it's constantly being fed by the Rothschilds. Now, of course, when we call up the Rothschilds to see what energy they've got in complex number space from Nathaniel, not there because it's dead. We've killed the complex number being of Nathaniel Rothschild completely by this process, and all of the energy of Nathaniel Rothschild, who's a subset of the Rothschilds, and of course due to self-similarity that's just part of the Rothschilds, all of that energy has gone into Duncan. So simply by doing this, we destroy the health, the business capability of Nathaniel, and of course this has already happened because remember, time's mutable. So if we go back into the past, we'll see Nathaniel's a fucktard and lost in one go $1 billion in Indonesia, and was kicked out of Indonesia by the Indonesians. So we already know that the technology has worked, and you might go, well, you knew that already. No, I've explained to you the past is mutable. So this process that we did on Nathaniel now caused in the past his loss of monies. He's been losing loads of money in the past because of the mutability of time. And of course, thanks to this energy, Duncan now, his energy field has gone into the super soldier mode and will never ever go down, because we've picked upon the ruling family of the planet. And remember, they might be walk-ins, they might be insectile, who knows what's in these things. We don't know who they commune with. That's by the by. I'm just looking simply at the physics of the process. Now he's a super soldier. One can see that he can simply, if you turn around, Duncan, you can simply call up with your left hand any of the Rothschilds.
Okay.
So just think of a Rothschild,
Yeah.
and just manifest them.
Okay.
And with the other one, the minus I part of them. So now not only have we built into him the energy, but we've built into him, into his bone generators, the capability of having any Rothschild, complex number Rothschild, and any minus I aspect of the Rothschild in his bone generators, which are the psychotronic generators made from the bones. So this is the bone generator technology. So you can simply manifest one of the Rothschilds there, and then simply stick your hand in as if you were, that's it, stabbing them, and then do it 5 times. Then they pop, and that energy gets added to the energy of Nathaniel. So you can simply go through every single Rothschild on the planet for our super soldier, who's now been designed by this process as the ultimate warrior to go around killing Rothschilds. Now let's go further into.
Can you even?
Sorry, no more. You may go. So you can see, once you understand the physics, it becomes much easier to design weapon systems. If you don't, you'll simply die Rothschild, sit in your armchair at home, die Rothschild, die Rothschild, die Rothschild, and after 6 months of this, the Rothschild hasn't dropped down dead, and you're going, oh, this doesn't work. No, it wouldn't work, because they got loads of energy, you haven't, so your chance of killing the Rothschild is 0. Here we're using the Rothschilds to kill them and to make us super young. So Duncan has extended his lifespan, made himself fitter and healthier by killing the Rothschilds. So not only do you make loads of money by killing these scumbags, but you make yourself fit, healthy and stronger the more you do it. So one can see the basis of anti-aging technology for a super soldier is by killing A-listers. The more A-listers they kill, the younger, fitter and healthier they become. Now we go to chaos theory. One, two, so this is 1 state, 2 states, 4 state, 8 state. 16 state. That's our strange attractor. And here, of course, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 6 state. So in chaos theory, or non-linear dynamics, which is its proper name, we've got something called Feigenbaum period doubling. And when I make my super soldiers, I basically call up their complex number and their complex number minus I bodies. This, of course, is a positive torsion field. It's positive. This one's a negative torsion field. And I simply use the negative torsion field to add to my multi-dimensionality. Remember, they're tiny things, so it adds very little. But what I do is erase their positive torsion field energy body. Why? Because what I'm doing is making them replicants, which is more versions of me. I'm erasing all the information, as I've explained, in their energy body, and adding to it all the information of an omega point being up here. Why? Well, it simply means that instead of running in one body, you run in all the vampire bodies. And since I talked about collapsing into a black hole to erase the information, then rebooting, you can see why vampire technology gets its name. That means then all the vampires are this one state me, containing all the information which I have, which is omega point, the OP, and similarly, when you join up and want to become a super soldier, you can actually become a vampire or me. But since, of course, the information is contained in a male or a female, the information is actually in the 2 state because they're separate. Me, I've sucked dry loads of females to become a male-female hermaphrodite energy body, while the vampires are in this state. But that means then that each vampire that has a go at this technology isn't stealing from anyone else, because say a male does it first and then a female, the male female does not equal the female male. So that means that every vampire can do this and get more and more and more energy, because they're covering the entire sector of this 2 state. But we've got this 4 state, the 8 state, the 16 state, the strange attractor state, and the 666 state, which is where humans. So one can see this as this giant territory of observation because of non-linear dynamics, and that people watching the video, you're in this 666 state as one of the damned. Your only purpose to be energy, your soul taken for the middle place, your spirit ripped out and fed to the strange attractor. But by watching the video and simply watching it, you then of course can interact by going up the Feigenbaum period doubling. How do you get the energy? Well, you get the energy from the Rothschilds or any A-lister, which then powers you, which then means we start erasing all of this for me. Because remember, the end user is top of the tree. It's all eye of the pyramid. So one can see the whole purpose. It's pharaonic back is going up to the one end user. So one can see the purpose of the video is not giving out information for free. It's simply appropriating the entire non-linear dynamic scale of observation. And I can't be in the damned state because I'm not you, but you are. And as you observe, and some of you practice trying to feed off the Rothschilds, then of course you can slowly move up. Next, of course, we've got the Illuminati's favourite number system. And 54. 29. 233. Which is the basis of the golden mean, this Fibonacci series. And the Fibonacci series, according to the pharaonic high priests, controlled observation. Remember, the observer, for O, collapses the quantum wave function, and the act of observation, the I, produces reality. One can see that the observer is not a simple observer. The observer depends upon their frequency and the information in the observer and a whole range of things. But from the old pharaonic religion, one can see that they had the Fibonacci series, and that the torsion field that encapsulates humans had this inbuilt into it, so that observing from these different positions caused different realities to manifest, this being the basis of loads and loads of Illuminati magic and ritual. And as one can see, here's the 5 of Satanism, and one can see it's very special in that it's the 5th position, 5, while the rest, the only one to replicate that's the 1. The 1 and the 5 are special. Every other, the 2nd position is a 1, the 3rd position is a 2. They don't match. And of course one can see that having a number that matches its position gives it, in the terms of the pharaonic priests, a special ability. And this 5, which you see in the pentacle, pentagram, pentagon, can be thought of as the gatekeeper to moving on further. So if you control the 5 from the pentagon, the pentacle, the pentagram, remember the pentagon goes around murdering people by luciferic ritual on a grand scale, then of course you block higher observation, and we'll see the 12th position here is a perfect square. 12 squared is 144. So one can see that...
I've got to do a take 2 in the numbers.
Sorry?
The next number is 34, and then 55.
Oh, yeah, right.
Then 89.
There we are, 34. Missed out 34.
And that's the 55.
Yeah, 55. There we are. Good.
I mean, get it right. For God's sake.
They might point that out.
Bloody hell.
Well, we're going to get this back to say something. About something.
It's allowed one mistake.
That's 2 mistakes. We'll have to stop now. That's it. That's the end. That's the end. Stop.
No, it's all right. I'm here to point them out.
No, that's the end. That's the end. Stop. We'll have to stop. Anyway, one can see this 5, which we saw from getting into the 5 different timelines, is important because that gets us into this 5, which is special to Satanists, Luciferians, and the Pentagon, the US military. Why? Well, this 5 from pharaonic magic seems to be the observation point which allows you to be gatekeeper and block other observers from going to higher aspects of observation. And if we think of the 12 squared as where all the money and the good stuff is, you can block them and control and filter them. And if we can add to that the 7th term, which is 13. 13 stands for all the nasty stuff. Then you can lock them and filter them into the -I realm, which of course is where hell is, and that then means that that huge Pentagon building in Washington is a gigantic -I generator feeding vast amounts of energy into the US deep state for all of this technology. So when you think that they haven't been using this for America to build its vast empire and control the world, now you're beginning to see, oh yes they have, and they've been building giant psychotronic generators in the shape of a giant 5, a pentagon, to control that. And this 5, of course, as we saw, is the... There we are. I to the -I, which is equivalent to 1 over I to the I, which is equivalent to 1 over 0.2, which is equivalent to 5, or approximately. So one can see that this energy bit here, the entire US military is devoted to this technology. And it isn't that it doesn't exist, it all comes from pharaonic religion, and that this whole technology has been used by countries. The same with any country with a five-pointed star in their flag. I don't know which countries there are, but I think there are some, which are of course using this energy to boost their countries. And it wouldn't surprise me if a country with a star like that on its flag wasn't going to become, or is, a superpower. So one can see that rather than this technology not being useful or used, it is the core of the underlying geopolitics of the planet. And one can see that the defeat of America doesn't come about because they're not using this technology. The thing comes about because people like me come along with a scientific version of the pharaonic technology they've been using to build their empires. So you can see why in the Stars and Stripes we've got loads of stars in their flag, which are linking up with this aspect. So it's not as if this pharaonic technology is not useful and hasn't been building empires, because remember the Egyptian empire lasted for 5,000 years, and it'll be very strange whether the UK lasts another 50 years. One can see endless immigration, the population achieving 100 million, having total breakdown of civil order in every city, as the little babies who've been watching the migrant children, the white boys who've been watching the migrant children, grow up to start stabbing and aciding and driving on mopeds and stealing and shooting and steel barring and generally doing what they're doing now. So one can see that Mad Maxville and the end of the West is happening as we speak. So I'm now going to have a break.
Well, Tim, this is very excellently marvellous. But the reason why we're doing this, what's ultimately the purpose of this, or is this something you want to say on camera? Or?
Yeah, the purpose is that this pharaonic knowledge has been used by the Illuminati and the deep state of the West to empower a few people like the Rothschilds. Now, of course, I'm just, as a good communist, spreading all of this largesse to the people. And anyone who wants to use this technology and start doing what they've been doing to make themselves super rich can start seeing there's a science behind it, and that using the energy of the A-listers, the bigger they are, to power you, not only will make you rich, but as we saw from Duncan, if you start feeding off them in that methodology, you'll automatically start making yourself younger, fitter and healthier. So there's loads of A-listers. I do the technology on myself, so instead of having to look forward to gene therapy and having to look forward to having lots of young people's blood pumped into me for $6,000 and upwards a time, and stem cells and all the other so-called technologies trying to rebuild my telomeres, you can simply use psychic warfare, become a super soldier, and the byproduct of becoming a super soldier and targeting A-listers is that you become younger and fitter, and of course you get more complex number electricity, which means that your fortunes rise. That's if you don't take it as a business. So if you're a Nigerian group or a Russian hacking gang or a Venezuelan government or the Cubans, you certainly want to get into psychic warfare, because if you can bleed, or the North Koreans, if you can bleed trillions off the Rothschilds, then that solves your economic woes. And of course it's good leverage, because remember the Rothschilds are going around destroying countries like Venezuela, and have crushed Cuba's economy and crushed the Iranian economy. So one can see that nation states, as a matter of survival, have to start entire programs of this technology ASAP, or be ground to dog meat by the rulers of the West. Remember, the Rothschilds aren't your sweet, kind, friendly little family that doesn't want to rule the world and crush everyone and everybody, apart from their minions like Buffett and Soros and their slaves like Tony Blair. Remember, all they want complete world domination, and to have everyone simply as dogs on a lead, controlled by their dog walkers.
Well, I think that's enough for now. I think we've done about 4 hours, I think, and we're near the end of our batteries. So we'll shut
Duncan
down.
Isn't. He's gone energize a bunny on you. And I don't apologise for the technicality of the discourse, because remember, we're talking about super soldier program, and it's all well and good saying, believe me, this guy called Tim Rifat in Brighton simply is wonderful, and if you buy loads and loads of stuff off him, you're simply going to become wonderful and a super soldier. No, I wanted to put out the science so that nation states and organisations and loners, goth girls or nerds who are really mathematically numerate, can begin to see it's a new branch of science, and that Duncan reported to me that the government's already inputting this new super weapon system as a threat to the UK into their computer files, etc. I wanted to just kickstart these people, because remember, it's all well and good saying that some people like Kulagina can move things around a table, or that some people like Geller can remotely view or get in people's minds and make them do things. That's all well and good, but as a scientist, that doesn't really interest me. What interests me is the science behind it. Is it replicable, and can anyone do it? Because if it's only available to the select few, then I'm pretty pissed off, because, you know, I don't and haven't, when I was young, moved things around tables, or used to pop into people's minds and control them. Now, of course, I do that stuff, but it's only because this science is replicable by everybody, including John Smith or Mary Nobody. Anyone can do it, and of course the A-listers are the power supply.
Well, thank you for now.
Thank you.